Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ashby Bridge. Today, we're talking about that ever important aspect of showing up and doing your best. Work ethic is what we're looking at today, but not just work ethic, but your work ethic, how you move through your day while you're at work. And I want to tell you that along with that, a lot of us like to be seen as showing up on time, ready to go, and punching in every day that we are on the schedule. That's important. And when you have someone, an ally, who sees that, wow, hi, how are you? Just as usual. Here you are. And in fact, yesterday I was told by my new manager, it's always nice to see you because you come in with a smile on your face. And isn't that a nice way to be seen and understood? Understood. I mean, a lot of us like to be seen. I know, Wendy, you like to be seen when you show up, right? You don't
Yeah,
want to walk into a place and have someone say an hour later, "Oh, I didn't know you were here."
but you know what what you said just reminded me of something that I do on my phone. I have like a list of things to do on the calendar, and when I do it, I mark a big green check marks next to it like that's done. And if you're at work and nobody acknowledges that you were on time, if you go home and you have like a tablet or a card or anything where you can give yourself a gold star. I mean, I like stars. Something to say, I acknowledge myself, even if my boss did not notice me. I know I was there on time. I showed up
Exactly.
with a smile. So we can reward ourselves, but it's nice when somebody at work does, when you have that ally.
Absolutely. An ally can do so much for us. And it's something that we're going to talk about in a moment. But as you know, with all the awesome autistic individuals that are out on the YouTube telling you what the traits of autism are, such as Paul Micallef, Autism on the Inside, and Orion Kelly out in Australia, Samantha Stein in the Netherlands, and Sarah Hendricks in the UK. Yes, that's her name. And Temple Grandin here in the US, as well as so many other wonderful autistic coaches that are telling you what the traits of autism are. You know, here at the Ashby Bridge, it's more than just knowing your traits. It's more than recognition of who you are. It's okay, now that I know who I am, how do I go back into society being authentic? And a lot of times we think that once we go over this bridge, we got to put on the mask with a big smile on our face. And we have to be almost frozen and with that smile on our face until we go home. And I want to let you know that we're here today to help you understand that while you may feel more comfortable wearing a mask of, I'm going to hold it in, I'm going to keep my composure, that's for you. That's not for them. I want you to know that you can be authentic. If you feel like it's easiest to put on a mask of happiness, to hold your emotions, hold your, not suppress. I'm not saying suppress, but hold your emotions in check so you can go through the day. You do it for you. Don't do it for anyone else. Don't do it to conform to standards. Don't do it because that's what they expect. Do it for you. If you want to be authentic, you need to understand that ethics, work ethics, are going to be very important. And I always like to bring up the little fable of the tortoise and the hare. I always considered myself the tortoise. I was consistent. I kept going at my pace. And if you remember the story about the rabbit, the hare, he took off. But then at work, he might have gotten on his phone, might have chatted with his friends, might have gone and got another cup of coffee, might be socializing, whereas you keep going. You keep working on your task. Yes, you're allowed to pick up your drink and take a drink, but you're not procrastinating. You're we're not expecting you to go as fast as everybody else. Do your best though. And Wendy, what can you say about consistency in this
Well,
area?
yeah, consistency is important. And employers want their people to have a good work ethic. But for a lot of us, it's like, what do they mean by work ethic? When I was writing my book, Working While Autistic, I knew I wanted to address it, but it's like, oh, there I am. Thank you. I didn't know exactly what is, it's like we all hear this word and we all use it. We think we understand it, but what are the different parts that go into it? So I did a lot of research and learning on my own so that I could talk about it. And excuse me. There's a phrase, and maybe you younger people haven't heard it, but we used to say something, oh, that is as hard as trying to herd cats. Because, cats are not like cows. You can't herd them. A dog can't tell them where to go. Nobody tells a cat where to go. If you have a room full of cats, they're going to do what each individual cat wants to do. So herding cats is like an impossible thing. And we think of work ethics as like, well, that's like this big word. How can I understand it? It's as hard as herding cats. So that was my little acronym that I used, herd cats. And I'll tell you what the different letters stand for.
I
These are the
would love
things-
that.
Okay.
Yes.
The H in herd cat stands for honesty, because you do need to be honest, and you talked about being authentic. Of course, no one but you can decide when to mask and when not to mask. If you feel safer, if you feel like that's your survival strategy, and then you can unmask when you get home, it's always up to you. But being honest about, you don't want to lie to your employer because they will catch you out.
It's
But there's-
harder to keep a lie going than to keep
Yes.
a truth staying.
Yeah, you have to remember what the lie was. And the autistic people I know don't lie, they just have that integrity within them. And I really respect that. But there's also when you don't have to say every single true thing. Honesty doesn't mean saying everything. If somebody says, oh, here's a picture of my new grandchild, isn't she beautiful? And you're looking at the picture and you're thinking, that's ugly. Not that any baby is ugly, but you might look at a picture, maybe they had a bad photographer, I don't know. But you can't say the truth. You also you don't want to lie though, because you're honest, and honesty is important to you. But there are ways that you can say something. You can say, oh, how precious, because precious doesn't mean attractive, it means of great value. You can say how adorable. Adorable doesn't really mean cute, it means able to be adored. So there are things you can say that are true. And if somebody ever asks you, oh, do these pants make me look fat? That's a trap, of course. Never say, oh, of course not. It's you that makes the pants look fat, because that humor would not be appreciated.
Yep.
But you could just say something generic like, oh, you always look appropriate, and then change the subject, because nobody should be asking you how they look at work. That's not a workplace thing. You want to
No.
avoid personal conversations at work. So the H is honesty, knowing when to hold back and choose your honesty, but making sure that you don't lie, which I know you don't want to. So the E in herd cat stands for excellence. Doing the very best you can at your job, whatever the job is. If your job is to fold pizza boxes for the pizza guys that put the pizza into, you just make sure those corners are right. You do an excellent job at it. And then the R in herd cat stands for responsibility. You take responsibility. If something goes wrong and it was on your shift and it was something that you did, you own up to it. And the way to do that is I think there's three parts to it. First, we'll find out if there's three. First, acknowledge what happened. This mistake was made. Second, acknowledge what you had done wrong. I didn't double check the whatever. And third, say what you're going to do now to make sure that doesn't happen again. From now on, I will double check every single thing that goes out of this whatever place of business. So take responsibility. Don't try to blame somebody else, because everybody will hate you if you try to throw them under the bus. And if you just stand up straight and take the bus can go by. If somebody throws you under the bus, just people will respect you not going down to their level and saying, not me, you, not me, you. If you just say, okay, here's what I did. Here's what I will do now so that that won't happen again. So that's the responsibility. And then the D in herd cats, it stands for discipline. You can practice the disciplines that you need. For some of us, getting to work on time is a huge challenge because sleep issues are big. So if you need to put things into place like multiple alarms, like um, having a sleep hygiene, getting help with how to get to sleep at a good time so that you can get up at the right time. But whatever the discipline is that you need to work on, whether it's continuing to work until your break and then getting back to work as soon as your however many minutes, 15 minutes break is over. Discipline yourself to stay by those requirements so that people are not thinking that you're, you know, goofing off, that you are disciplined.
Stop you right there for a moment.
Yeah.
Because I want to just quickly finish that little story about the rabbit and the hare. And
Oh, yes.
this is exactly where you keep going, but the rabbit kind of slows down, takes a nap, does what they
Yeah.
want to do. But if you keep going and you're showing up as working consistently, yeah, you're allowed to use the bathroom and such, but you
Yeah.
show you're doing exactly what you're expected to do. Go ahead, Wendy. Let's finish
Okay.
yours.
Okay. Well, the C, excuse me, the C in herd cats stands for communication. We all know how important it is. We all know that it can be seen as a challenge for autistic folk, not because they're bad at communication, but because their communication style is different from the neuro majority or the neuro privileged. It's two different communication styles. But since there are more people in the neuro majority, they tend to think that their way of communicating is correct.
And
So,
often the only way, as I
and the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't try to change how they communicate. They expect the autistic employee to change how they communicate. And when you have a job and you want to keep the job, you do try to communicate the way they do. You know, you try to learn what's expected. You can still make requests like, could I get things in writing? You know, could I get more advanced notice in writing so that I know when I'm going to be scheduled, not like a text at midnight that I have to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah, so communication. The A in herd cats stands for accept authority. Some people on the spectrum, that some autistic people that I know are very smart, you know, and it can be difficult to work for someone who is not as smart as you are, but that happens so often. People get promoted up to middle management and they're not that smart, but they have the job of being your manager. And some of them like to, you know, throw their weight around because it makes them feel important. And that can be really difficult to take. If you know, this guy's an idiot. Why, he's just trying to make me mad. He's just, you know, does he hate me? What is it? It can be very difficult to accept authority from someone who you believe to be not worthy of their position. But in the world of employment, you want to keep your job and keep getting a paycheck. And that means that's when you might bring out your mask and say, okay, I need to put on a mask of I'm calmly accepting this person's authority. And if they want me to say yes, sir, I'll say yes, sir. And, you know, whatever it is that's needed, you need to show that you accept authority because otherwise he's not going to stand up for you. He's not going to be your ally. And I know you're going to be talking about allies very soon. I love that. It's very important. So even if someone is not an ally, but if they're above you, you still have to accept that authority. And the T in herd cats stands for teamwork. It's not the favorite thing of a lot of the autistic folk I know. They do really well on their own. Just they'll work, they'll go forward, they'll get the job done, they'll produce whatever their production is. But the teamwork can be difficult. two ways that it sometimes goes. And you probably can remember back in school when they said, oh, work on a team for this project. Either the either you get left out and they go on with their ideas and won't listen to your ideas, or you get dumped with all the work and then they take their part of the credit and you've done all the work. Teamwork can be challenging. But if you go into your job thinking, okay, teamwork is not my favorite thing, but if my job requires it, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to, it's not just accepting authority, but respecting the teammates and being gracious about listening to their ideas. Now, here's a quote from Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin said, "You cannot tell people they're stupid even when they're really stupid." And you might have someone on your team who is really stupid. So you might need to have like a script in mind where you say, you know, oh, there's an idea. You didn't say it was a good idea. You just said, there's an idea. Or what about this idea? Without making them feel bad about, not everybody can be as smart as you are. But
One of the things that I wanted to say on teamwork is,
yes,
here's where I found it to be one good or bad. And this is if you're having trouble reaching something and someone comes along. It's something that can be helped right away is a good form of teamwork. But I can understand where you're expecting another person to bring their part into your project. That can be harder when you're counting on someone to live up to their responsibility within your projects. So teamwork can be a yes-no situation. If it's something that can be instantaneous, by all means, that's a fun thing to do it. If they're trying to find something and you found it, here, that's great.
yeah,
It's, I think, when you bring two parts of a major project together, that it can be rather challenging. So I think it's
Yeah.
a time variance. If it's instantaneous, teamwork is great, or
yes,
getting out of each other's way is a form of teamwork, and that's
Yeah.
also great. But I think what I found was when I had to wait on another member to bring their part of the project into my speed, then I felt responsibility for their speed.
Mhm. Yeah, teamwork is challenging. And what you mentioned about if you can't reach someone and a team member is near you and you say, can you get that for me? And they're right there and they can get it, that makes them feel good too, because it feels good to be helpful. And obviously it helps you because we can't all reach the top shelf.
And some of them
whereas-
are willing to climb, and I was not willing to climb.
I'm with you. I don't climb on shelves. The possibilities are not worth going there for.
Disastrous. And I recommend, if you're not comfortable, especially if you have the proprioception, don't do
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah.
Don't do it.
Safety
It's not
first.
worth your health to do what others do to get faster at their job. You do you.
Yeah, and always safety first. If it's dangerous, don't do it. Tell your manager, this does not feel safe. We need a ladder or we need I don't know what. Okay, and the last point in herd cats is the S, solution focused. There are going to be times that there's a problem at work. If you go to your boss and just say, there's this problem, it's a bad problem, solve it, then they don't feel good because now you've dumped it on them and they probably don't know what to do about it either. But now they're annoyed at you because you brought them the problem. So if you think about solutions before you report the problem, and you can come to them as a team member saying, I noticed this problem. What if we did this? And that would solve the problem. What do you think? Now they get to make the decision, but they're making a decision based on, do you think we should try this or should we try this? Not just dumping on them as like they don't have an idea. So being solution focused when you have to, bring a problem, bring some possible solutions along with the problem, and then they'll feel better about what you have to say.
Absolutely. And what a great segue right into ally, Wendy.
Allies.
Thank you. I thank you because when, if you're like me, and some are, we have ideas on how to solve problems. That's what I consider us kind of like that's our strength, is we can see problems before others don't see problems. But you want to be careful who you bring that idea to. Because I have found that when you bring an idea to someone who's not understanding of your abilities, and someone who thinks that you're either trying to kiss up or be in the wrong place, if you bring it to the wrong person, they're not going to be as receptive to that idea. So finding the ally to say, hey, I have an idea. Sometimes that's the best way to start it. I have an idea. What if we could? It's another way to start it. But allies are going to receive it. Leaders may not. Leaders may feel like they haven't thought of it themselves first, and therefore, rather than saying it's a good idea, they'll be like, oh, I don't think so. Because they're feeling like, why didn't I think of that first? Why didn't I think that I could solve this problem? So knowing who you can go to with an idea is very important, because they're going to receive it whether or not they even use the idea. In the end, when I had an idea in my last job, the ally loved it. Unfortunately, the manager did not. And here I was thinking, this is a great way to save time for all of us, not just me, for all of us.
Yeah.
And because the idea wasn't her idea, she didn't accept it. And that's
Oh.
too bad. But at least you, as the autistic individual, was received. Your idea was like, oh, well, I think we could do that. Even if it doesn't get done, at least she received you well. Another thing is, when you do have a problem, knowing who the safe person to go to vent. Are they going to run to the leader and say, she said this, she said that, she said that? No, you want someone that you can hold in confidence, that you can go out and say, here's where I need to just air a problem I'm having. Would you be willing to listen? Now, they can have constructive ideas if they're an ally, but if they're not an ally, they may not. And I see, Wendy, you're ready to
Yeah.
go.
There are allies and friends and work friends, but when it comes to venting, the problem with work friends and work allies is that the first word there is work before friends. And some people, autistic people I know are very trusting because they are good people. They trust that other people are also good people. And many have been harmed because they thought they could trust and vent to someone, and then that person turned around and threw them under the bus. And so if it's actual venting, you might want to do that at home with an outside of work friend, but you do want to have that ally that you can talk about ideas with. Just try to not cross the venting line.
Oh,
with-
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I think the problem was that I was finding that there was another teammate who wasn't willing to help. So it wasn't a home venting issue. It was a at work. Someone wasn't
Okay.
willing to work with me. So I understand what you're saying. No, you don't want to bring home situations to work.
Yeah, but you also don't want to go too far in your venting. You had a specific
Right.
thing that you had to talk about that would have been productive. But if somebody said, "Oh, this coworker is always making me feel bad, and he's always blah blah blah," and that kind of venting, you probably
Right.
don't want to do. But
That's
you
called
had a
problem
constructive,
solving. Yeah. That's
yeah, you
called
had a
problem
constructive
solving.
problem-solving idea, but you didn't vent by throwing somebody under the bus, because then you end up under the same bus. So
Right. Very
Yeah.
true. Very true. That's a key point, because when you go with a problem, and I always like to say, I don't blame another person. I may blame a piece of tool, a tool that's not working appropriately, something inanimate. may be the problem. In the case that I was talking about, the shopping carts were too wide for the aisle. So I wasn't throwing the person who was pushing the shopping cart. I was blaming the fact that the tools were not appropriate for the amount of space that we had to work with.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's an expensive problem because I'm guessing that the manager up the line that heard that idea thought, well, doesn't matter because these are the ones we have, and it
Yeah.
would cost a whole bunch of money to replace them all. So that's another thing is at that level, they're thinking dollars and cents, not what's going to make your life easier, but let's work with what we've got so we don't have to spend money,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Very true. I mean, that was just one example. I had come up with
Yeah.
another example of making it really easy. But anyway, allies are the type of people that you can go to that you don't feel like you have to put on the mask immediately to talk to. You may
Nice.
be fine the whole day working at your desk and being fine, but uh-oh, you need to go and talk to someone. Then the mask goes on. But if you go to the person that you feel is an ally, you may not have to put on the mask. You can just go and say, I'm experiencing a situation I would like your feedback on. And that might be the best way to preface it. I need your feedback. Here's what happened. Here's why I'm experiencing the problem. What can you suggest? Now you're putting the ball in their court. You're not coming up with the ideas yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
So that way we can really go. I think the most important part of this is you need to know who you are, as we've said all along in this whole series. You need to know who you are. Sometimes this may be the time, if you are being asked too many skills that you're not capable of, you may have to reassess. Is this the right job for me? And I came to the point where I can be very strong, but I'm not speedy. I'm efficient. If you wanted someone who was efficient, who did it correctly, I'm your person. If you want someone who's fast and willing to climb shelves, well, then maybe that's not who I am supposed to be. Or maybe if you wanted someone who could pick up 4 containers of 40 packs of water, maybe that's not. So it comes down to the fact of look at what your work entails. What are the jobs that are responsible? Remember, if you go back to the very first part of this series, to finding the right job for you. If you're not someone who enjoys heavy lifting, then that's not going to be the right place for you. If you're not someone who likes to speed through your job, speed is not going to be an asset to you. So you need to go through and look at your assets. What am I able to do? I am creative. I am efficient. I can work consistently. Those are the types of jobs you want to get into because your work ethic is going to be based on how you do those items. And if you're like, oh, I can't do this part, can't do that part, well, that's your key that you might not be in the right place because consistency, working at your best effort is going to be required. Wendy, what else can we say on this topic today? It's kind of a quick topic, but it holds so much weight.
It does. And I've got a little quote, if I could just read a quote about work ethic.
Absolutely. Yes.
Excuse me. This is Barack Obama said this. Our success should depend not on accident of birth, but the strength of our work ethic and the scope of our dreams.
That's a good one. I
And
like that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think about the dreams on the bridge. And I just when I read this, I thought, yeah, this is what we're talking about, isn't it?
It definitely is because I mean, it's interesting. I'm going to bring in an interesting fact right here. I did
Yes.
some study on astrological signs, and
Oh,
this may not have to do as much about work, but it can. It can, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes our birth dates tell us how well we work with another person. Like I'm an Aquarian, and I know this someone who's a Leo, we may butt heads a little bit more than someone who might be a Gemini or a Libra, because we have different values.
Mhm.
And your value may not meet up with someone else's value. So I was finding that if I were to come up against another Leo, because I find that we're opposites, you can even calmly say to a person at work, hey, when's your birthday? And then just understand more about how they work. And I found that was kind of interesting in life and such. And I'm bringing the reason that quote meant something to me is because I have a Leo mother and I'm an Aquarian, and Aquarians and Leos don't always work out as well. But if you understood where the other coworker was coming from, it gives you more of a meeting ground. If they could understand, like when I was born, I was always going to be at odds with my mother. Unfortunately, it was just that when our birthdays were born. So a lot of people may think, oh, that's too out there. But you'd be very surprised to find out how your personalities will either go together, or you need to find that middle ground with other people when you're at work. And this is all about coworkers now. Having the work ethics of how to work with coworkers, because you're gonna find that friction with that one person. It's like, why do I keep coming up with friction on them? Maybe it goes deeper to their birth date. Maybe it goes deeper to their personality style of when they were born. And I know that sounds a little out there, but just think about it for a moment. Now, what if you were to find someone who is right on the same level as you? Wow. I often like to say, I really get along with this person. I wonder why this person and I can work together so well. Have you ever done a study like that, Wendy?
You know, I have not, but I do feel that just like autistic people are very different from one another. I mean, you use the word autism and it's like completely different. I think the same is true of people with certain birth dates or astrological signs. Not all Leos are the Leo, they're not all the same. So if you find it helpful to think about astrological signs, that's great. But I wouldn't make assumptions about people based on their astrological sign, because they might be the Leo that acts more like an Aquarian.
Yes,
We don't want to lump people together any more than we want them lumping us together. I don't want people to think, well, because I'm a old white-haired, blue-haired little old lady, then I can't do certain things, because I can still do things even though I'm old. Even so we don't want to group people. But to the extent that you find it helpful, I think we all find things that are helpful to us when we're interacting with people.
Yes, yeah. Now, what is your astrological sign, for curiosity?
I'm Aries on the cusp of Taurus.
Okay, okay.
I
Just
don't know what
always
that means.
interesting. Yeah, no, and I bring it up, and in all seriousness, I don't use it like I'm going to go around and find out which person is in my astrological sign, but it may explain when you come up and you're working as a team and you can't understand why every single project works out where this one person is always your ally and another person is not. You can begin to understand that it's not you being autistic. And I guess this is where I was going to go with it. It's not necessarily that you're autistic, that you're having friction with this one person. It may be deeper. It may be a different reason entirely. So often we're like, yep, I'm autistic. That's why everything's going wrong for me. And we want to help you get away from that. It may just be a different reason why you two are not having the same ideas. Maybe they feel jealous because you have a skill that they would love to have.
And I see that you are using this knowledge about astrological signs as a way to make accommodations for other people, the way we might for someone with a disability. if you realize, oh, they're whatever, their birth sign, then maybe you can be more compassionate towards them and not get upset if they do something that you don't like, rather than using astrology to say, well, I can't work with that person. I don't like that person. You're using it in a compassionate way to
Yeah.
make accommodations for people. And while you probably don't go around asking everybody their birthday, you can ask me because we know each other. But sometimes they'll post like everybody's birthday in the break room or something, and sometimes they don't. And then you have to, judge, is this someone, would they be offended if I just said out of the blue, what's your birthday? Or is this somebody that we talk a lot and that seems like a appropriate thing to ask? You can judge when to ask and when not to ask.
And sometimes people's birthdays are advertised, as you say, anyway,
Yes.
or someone's celebrating your birthday. Oh, and you can just have a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're Virgo. What's it like to be a Virgo? Because we have to remember there's a yin yang to every coworker. And I say this because sometimes particular person may have traits that come out with you, but they have different positive traits that may come out with others. So yeah, I'm exactly not using this as a keep away from or bring closer. Although when you pick an ally, you'll be very surprised to find out after the fact. Don't go up and say, "Oh, you're also Aquarian. You're going to be my ally." No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Yes.
more talking about the fact that when you find that comfort person that you really feel like you can open up to, or they see you, they acknowledge you, they know exactly when you need a break, or when they know when you want to go to lunch or where or whatever. When you find that person that really gets you, you can say maybe at a casual time, "Hey, just curious. That's why we get along so well." And they like that when you say, "Oh, that's why you and I get along so well." Because
Yes.
that's using their personality strengths as wonderful. But yeah,
Positive. Yeah.
exactly. But coworkers are so funny sometimes. And that's why autistic individuals do like to work alone. Is they don't want to have to figure out which person is going to be working with them or working against them.
Mhm.
And we like to be consistent. At least I do. I like to be consistent. I like to be efficient as well. What are your work ethics? What do you find valuable based on what Wendy explained to you? What are your assets that you can bring to your workplace? Wendy, what else would you like to add as we wrap this up? This is a little bit shorter than others, but that's okay.
Sometimes we just get right to the heart of it quickly, don't we? Without a lot of.
We do.
Well,
And yeah,
I was
no,
just
go
gonna.
ahead.
Okay. I just would want to say to listeners, I believe in you. Believe in yourself. If you're not in a job right now, you keep trying. If you have a job and you're not sure if it's the right job, keep looking. You deserve to have good employment. You deserve to have the accommodations that you need. And there's a lot of things to think about. Also, you showed my book, which was very nice, Suzanne. Thank you. But if you're unemployed or if you're underemployed, as so many autistic folk are, you don't want to go out and buy a book. So I would encourage you to go to your public library. I love supporting the libraries. And you can ask for my book, you can ask for other books, because they're free. So use knowledge scrolling. Learn everything you can about your chosen career, about yourself, about the people in your life, and go forward confidently because you deserve to have good things in your life.
You deserve to thrive, not just survive.
Yes.
And
Yes, exactly.
and that's such an important part. If we're going to live fulfilling lives, that is the most important part. And I want to end up with one other book that I just recently finished for those of us who are autistic and we're dealing with some trauma in our background, I just read an excellent book by Nancy Collier by the name of Emotionally Exhausted Women. And I found it to be very helpful on how we look at what we're doing, that we're not taking our needs seriously. And that's an important part for us because so many of us have been trained as women to be people pleasers, and then add on to that layer of being autistic and wanting our needs met and thinking that if I'm going to get them met, I got to do this or I got to do that for that person. That's not always the case. You need to know what your needs are. Otherwise, you'll be exhausted trying to meet the needs of everybody else.
Yes.
So work can bring on that emotional exhaustion if you're always trying to please everybody else at work and you're not getting your own needs met. And if it means you need to get that piece of paper that's filled out by doctors, I know this day and age, doctors are not as willing to fill out paperwork.
Oh.
And I think we need to really establish with them that in order for you to be able to do work and make an income, you need to have the paperwork filled out. Or find another person who will do it for you. But you deserve to have your accommodations met so that you can do your job at your full
Yes.
capacity.
And, you know, you also deserve recovery time. If you go to work and you need to then just go right to bed and spend the weekend in bed, that doesn't mean you're lazy. That means you're recovering, because that exhaustion is real and you don't want to end up burned out. So be good to yourself and take the time you need to just fully recover. And don't let anybody tell you, oh, you're so lazy. Why don't you come out and go out and party with us? No, you need to take care of yourself, and you deserve it.
Exactly. I like to say to anyone I work with that I like to take Tuesdays and Saturdays off, because then I no longer will have 3 days in a row that I'm working.
Nice.
And that's an important thing. Give yourself that break, especially if you're in retail. If you're in a Monday through Friday job, then we go back to what Wendy spoke about, is try and do it remote, maybe Tuesday and
Nice.
Friday. That way you're giving yourself that emotional break in the week to get the alone time to work.
Yeah. And being able to control your sensory and social environment, you can be so much more productive if you don't have everybody's perfume and tuna sandwich and chatting outside, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I want to say thank you to everyone for coming this week. And I hope you had a great week of looking for jobs. Next week, we'll have a surprise topic, which I will tell you about in the Facebook group page, the Ashby Bridge Facebook group. I hope you come back for Wendy's and my last week of talking about work. And we're going to have a lot of fun next week. So I will keep up with you, and I hope you have a great week. Thank you.